Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Welcome to all for this session on Ramayana to chapter 67 of Yuddha Kanda. In the previous chapters, we saw Kumbhakarna, the brother of Ravana, having a huge body entering into the warfield. Seeing his huge body, all the monkeys were feared and they ran helter and skelter. And then it was the responsibility of Angada to encourage all of them and make them all to turn against Kumbhakarna and face him in the war. Tracking their steps on hearing the voice of Angada, all those huge bodied monkeys resolutely taking their stand desired nothing more than to join issue in the fight. Their confidence restored by the words of valiant Angada, those monkeys feeling their energy revived and their courage mounting, advanced, resolving to die and sacrifice their lives. Then those giants, arming themselves with trees and enormous crags, which they spun with great rapidity, hurled themselves on Kumbhakarna, whereupon, full of ire and vigor, that warrior of immense stature, brandishing his mace, dispersed the enemy on every side. 708,000 monkeys lay scattered on the earth, struck down by Kumbhakarna, and like unto Garuda consuming serpents, he seized hold of 7, 8, 10, 20, and 30 in his arms, crushing and devouring them in his extreme fury as he ran. Reassured with exceeding difficulty, those monkeys rallied here and there, and armed with trees and rocks, took up their stand in the forefront of the battle. At that instant, Dvivida, that lion among monkeys, resembling a threatening cloud peering up a rock, hurled himself on the enemy who was like unto a mountain peak. And that monkey, breaking off the crag, flung it at the Kumbhakarna, missing him, so that the missile fell on the Titan force, crushing horses, elephants, and chariots harnessed to excellent steeds. Another rock created further victims, and under that avalanche of stones, the Titans wounded, their horses slain, their charioteers struck down, streaming with blood, and mounted in their cars, suddenly let forth terrible cries, and with the aid of death dealing arrows, severed the heads of those foremost of monkeys who were roaring. On their side, the monkeys, full of valor, uprooted great trees in order to crush the chariots, horses, elephants, buffalo, and titans. And from the air where he was stationed, Hanuman showered rocks, stones, and trees of every kind on the head of Kumbhakarna. But that mighty one split and evaded that rain of trees. And he hurled himself upon that great army of monkeys, brandishing his sharp beak, and as he rushed forward, Hanuman placed himself in the way, armed with the peak of a mountain, and in fury struck Kumbhakarna a violent blow, who, in his appalling corpulence, appeared like a hill. Then he, whose limbs were dripping with fat and streaming with blood, stumbled under the shock, and the Titan hurled his spear, which was as bright as lightning and like a mountain spouting forth flames, striking Maruti between the arms, as Guha formerly struck the Kauncha mountain with his formidable lance. His breast pierced by that spear, Hanuman, beside himself vomiting blood, in fury let forth a terrible cry in the mid of the battle, like the roar of a thundercloud at the end of the world period. And a great cheer arose from the ranks of the Titans as they beheld the plight of Hanuman, while the monkeys, distraught and terrified, fled from the field. At that instant, summoning up his courage, the valiant Nila discharged a crack against that crafty Titan, who, seeing it approaching, struck it with his fist, and on the impact, that rock broke and fell on the earth, emitting sparks of fire. Then Rishabha, Sharabha, Neela, Gavaksha, Gandhamadana, those five tigers among the monkeys, hurled themselves on Kumbhakarna and in the struggle showered him with blows from stones, trees, palms of their hands, fists, feet, and fists, attacking the giant on every side. Kumbhakarna, however, scarcely felt those blows, and unheeding, seized the impetuous Sharaba in his two arms, crushed in his embrace. That bull among the monkeys fell to the ground, his mouth filled with blood. Thereafter, in the fight, that enemy of Indra struck Sharabha with his fist, Nila with his knee, and Gavaksha with the palm of his hand. Dazed by the blows they had received, terrified, covered with blood, they fell on the earth like kimshuka trees that have been uprooted. Those powerful leaders of the monkeys being overcome, the rest hurled themselves in thousands on Kumbhakarna and flinging themselves upon him and climbing about him as if he were a rock. Those bulls among the Plavagas who themselves resembled hills, attacked and bit him with their nails, teeth, fists, and arms. Those foremost of monkeys assailed the valiant Kumbhakarna, a veritable tiger in stature, and the Titan, covered by thousands of apes, resembled a mountain overgrown by trees. Crushing all those monkeys in his arms, that giant devoured them as Garuda the serpents. Cast into Kumbhakarna's mouth that resembled the pit of hell, the monkeys moved out from his ears and nostrils. As high as a mountain in his rage, he devoured those monkeys, and that prince of Titans crushed them, covering the earth with their flesh and blood and ranging through their ranks, which he overran, so that he appeared like the fire of time itself, resembling Shakra, here bearing the thunderbolt in his hand, or death with the noose. So did that powerful Titan appear, armed with his spear in the fight. As in the summer season, fire destroys the dry forest, so did Kumbhakarna consume the Simian ranks. Thus decimated, their leaders struck down the Plavangamas, wild with terror, emitted dreadful cries, and overpowered again and again by Kumbhakarna. Those monkeys fled from refuge to Raghava, witnessing the massacre of those monkeys. Angada, born of the son of the bearer of the thunderbolt, hurled himself in rage upon Kumbhakarna in the struggle. Seizing hold of a great crag, he roared again and again, putting all the Titans who accompanied Kumbhakarna to fight. Thereafter, he struck the head of his adversary with a rock, and that enemy of Indra, inflamed with anger on receiving the blow, leaped with one bound upon the irascible son of Vali. Emitting loud cries, the Titan struck terror among the monkeys, and in his anger threw his spear with extreme force at Angada. But with a light bound, that valiant lion among the monkeys, an experienced warrior, avoided the impact and leaped on his opponent, striking his chest with the palm of his hand. That violent blow dazed the giant, who resembled a mountain, regaining his senses, that most powerful of titans, doubling his fist. The mocking laugh struck Angada, who fell insensible to the earth. As a lion among the Plavagas lay stretched unconscious on the ground, Kumbhakarna, brandishing his spear, rushed on Sugriva, and seeing that Colossus running towards him, The courageous king of the monkeys went out to meet him, whereupon, beholding that Indra among the monkeys advancing, Kumbhakarna halted and stood facing him with braced limbs. Beholding Kumbhakarna standing still, his body streaming with blood of the great monkeys whom he had devoured, Sugriva said to him, in slaying these warriors, you have accomplished a most difficult feat, and by devouring my soldiers, have acquired immense renown. Now let the army of monkeys be. What have you to do with common folk? Do yourself seek to bear the weight of this rock I am about to hurl on you. O Titan, find your satisfaction in slaying me, O Titan, you who resemble a mountain. These words of the king of the monkeys, who was possessed of courage and fortitude, the lion among the titans answered, you are the grandson of Prajapati and the son of Riksharajas. You are energetic and brave, hence your arrogance, O monkey. At these words of Kumbhakarna, Sugriva, taking up a stone, hurled it at him suddenly and struck his breast with that missile resembling a thunderbolt. The rock broke on the huge chest of that giant. The Titans were appalled, while some of the ranks of the monkeys rose shouts of joy. Struck by that rocky peak, Kumbhakarna, enraged and roared, opening his huge mouth wide and brandishing his spear that resembled lightning. He hurled it at the king of the monkeys and the bears in order to slay him. As it as it fell, the son of Anila, Hanuman, with his two hands seized hold of that sharp spear and its gold encircled shaft, loosed by the Titan's arm, and in play, as it were, broke that powerful weapon across his knee. Seeing his lance shattered to pieces by Hanuman, the army of monkeys, in a transport of delight, began to cheer. Meanwhile, hearing those rangers of the woods emitting leonine roars and lauding Maruti in their joy on beholding his spear shattered, the Titan became enraged and pale with fear, tore off the peak of the Malaya mountain nearby in the vicinity of Lanka, hurling it on Sugriva in order to strike him down. Struck by that crag, the Indra of the monkeys fell on the earth insensible, and the Yatodhanas let forth their roar of triumph. Thereafter, Kumbhakarna, approaching that powerful king of the monkeys, lifted him up and bore him away like unto a violent wind driving away a cloud. And as he ranged the battlefield, dragging Sugriva with him, who resembled a great cloud, Kumbhakarna, with his lofty stature, appeared like Mount Meru of exceedingly high peaks, having laid hold of Sugriva. The mighty lord of the Titans turned towards Lanka amid the acclamations of his own people and the wailing of the inhabitants of the celestial region, who were inconsolable on account of the capture of the king of the Plavangamas. And having overcome the king of monkeys, that enemy of Indra, and his rival in power, reflected. He being dead, that is Sugriva being dead, the entire Simian host is destroyed together with Raghava. Then Hanuman, the sagacious son of Maruta, seeing Sugriva borne away by Kumbhakarna and the monkeys fleeing, thought to himself, now that Sugriva has been made captive, what I need to do? Assuredly, I shall accomplish that which is fitting in order to slay this Titan. I shall assume the shape of a mountain. When I have destroyed the extremely powerful Kumbhakarna in combat by pounding his body with blows and have delivered the king, the delight of the monkeys will be general. Yet that great monkey is well, that is Sugriva, is well able to free himself through whatever mayhem that is created, struck by Kumbhakarna with a rock in the struggle. The chief of the monkeys is not yet conscious of his plight. Presently, when Sugriva recovers consciousness, he will know how to save himself and the monkeys in this great conflict. That warrior will not be pleased if I deliver him from here, for his fair name would be tarnished and irretrievably lost. That is why I shall delay a while, so that he may extricate himself from this predicament by his own prowess, and I shall confine myself to rallying the scattered forces. Reflecting thus, Hanuman, born of Marutha, sought to instill courage into the Simeon army. Meanwhile, bearing the great and quivering form of the monkey in his arm, Kumbhakarna returned to Lanka, and from the temples, highways, dwellings, and city gates, the people honored him with a rain of flowers. Under the shower of roasted grain and the fragrance of the blossoms with which he was drenched, and also on account of the coolness of the royal highways, little by little the valiant Sugriva recovered consciousness. Borne in the arms of his powerful rival, when beholding the great highway of the city, that warrior was assailed by innumerable thoughts. Taken captive in this way, what can I do now? I shall act in such a way that it is to the advantage of the monkeys. Then, with his sharp nails, the king of the monkeys instantly attacked the enemy of the gods and tore off his 2 ears with his teeth, biting off his nose and splitting his thighs with his feet. With his nose and ears torn off by Sugriva's teeth and nails, Kumbhakarna, transported with anger, his limbs covered with blood, threw the monkey down in order to crush him, flung to the ground with fearful violence and struck by the enemy of the gods. Sugriva bounced into the air like a ball and with all speed flew to rejoin Rama. Kumbhakarna, his ears and nose severed, drenched in gore, stone like a mountain with his torrents and covered with blood, vomiting blood, that gigantic titan of fearful aspect, the younger brother of Ravana, blazed with anger. Like unto a mass of dark collyrium or an evening cloud, that formidable ranger of the night resolved to enter into combat once again, and Sugriva, having escaped that enemy of Indra, furious, immediately threw himself into the struggle, reflecting, I have no weapon. The ferocious warrior seized hold of a huge hammer issuing from the city. The valiant Titan began to consume the redoubtable army of the monkeys with the violence of fire at the destruction of the world. Famished and avid of flesh, Kumbhakarna entered the ranks of the monkeys, and in his rage, like unto Mrityu at the end of the world period, indiscriminately ate up Titan, monkey, Pishacha, and bear. Thereafter, in his fury, he consumed the monkeys, seizing one, two, three, or more in one hand, and Titans also, thrusting them greedily into his mouth, so that he streamed with flesh and blood. And those struck by the peaks of mountain continued to feast on those monkeys, while they, seeing his companions being devoured, took refuge with Rama, whereupon Kumbhakarna, in a transport of rage, pursued them in order to consume them. Seizing them in his arms in the chase, he took hold of them in groups of 7, 8, 20, 30, and 100. His limbs were covered with fat, flesh, and blood, while wreaths of tangled entrails hung over his ears, and that colossus of sharp teeth began to discharge his weapons so that he appeared like time at the end of the world. At that instant, the son of Sumitra, the scourge of enemy hosts, and the destroyer of hostile citadels, enraged, entered the fight, and the courageous Lakshmana loosed 7 darts into Kumbhakarna's body, aiming a hail of other missiles on him, but Kumbhakarna shook off those falling shafts. Then the valiant son of Sumitra was provoked beyond measure and covered the shining armor of the Titan. It was made of gold, with his shafts, as a mountain is overlaid with clouds by the wind at evening. Like unto a mass of dark collyrium, the Titan riddled with golden darts, blazed like the sun shining amid clouds, and a terrible monster whose voice equaled the crash of countless thunder clouds spoke scornfully, increasing Saumitri's delight, saying, "You have manifested your courage by entering into combat fearlessly with me. I who have overcome Antaka himself without difficulty in the field. He who is able to face the rival of Mrityu himself, armed for combat, is worthy of honor. How much more so if he should enter into conflict with him? Mounted on Airavata, surrounded by the gods, Shakra, their king, has never dared to challenge me to battle. This courage from a youth is gratifying to me. Now go, Hans, O Saumitri. I wish to meet Raghava. In sooth, your valor, energy, and martial prowess are pleasing to me. My only desire is to slay Rama. When he is slain, all are slain. When Rama has fallen under my blows, I shall fight with all my might against all those who remain on the battlefield. Thus boastfully did the Titan speak, and Saumitri, with a mocking smile, answered in dread accents, saying, "That your prowess renders you invincible to Shakra and the other gods is true, O warrior, and today you do manifest the same valor. Yonder, here is the son of Dasharatha, immovable as a rock." Hearing these words, that ranger of the night, the mighty and powerful Kumbhakarna, disregarding Lakshmana, passed him by and causing the earth to tremble, rushed to Rama. Rama, the son of Dasharatha, however, loosed some pointed arrows with Indra's weapon on Kumbhakarna's breast, and wounded by Rama in his furious course, flames mixed with embers shot from his mouth. Pierced by Rama's arrow, that lion among the Titans, emitting a terrible cry, hurled himself full of rage upon Raghava, throwing off the monkeys. With his breast pierced with darts, adorned with peacock's plumes, his mace fell shattered from his hand, and all his weapons were scattered on the earth. Finding himself disarmed, that Colossus created a great carnage with his fists and hands, covered with blood that streamed from his wounds like a torrent falling from a mountain, his limbs riddled with arrows, maddened by the smell of blood. He rushed about in his violent rage, devouring the monkeys, titans, and bears, brandishing a huge crag, that mighty and formidable giant, the equal of Antaka, hurled it at Rama. But before it reached him, that hero Rama struck it in the center with aid of 7 infallible darts. The virtuous Rama, elder brother of Bharata, scattered it with arrows encrusted with gold, and like unto the peak of Meru, the crag shining with splendor, fell crushing 200 monkeys. At that instant, the virtuous Lakshmana, after reflecting deeply on the various means of destroying Kumbhakarna, said to Rama, "O Prince, that monster is no longer able to distinguish between monkeys and titans. Drunk with the smell of blood, It devours friends and enemies alike. That means he is eating both the monkeys as well as titans. Let the foremost of the monkeys climb upon him courageously, and let their officers and leaders hang upon him on every side, under the heavy load that will crush him as he is rushing over the ground. That insensate one will annihilate the titans and not the monkeys. At these words of that intelligent prince, the valiant monkeys all flung themselves on Kumbhakarna with alacrity, and he, full of ire against the monkeys who had climbed on his back, shook them violently as a fierce elephant his keepers. Seeing the Titan shaking himself thus, Rama said to himself, he is incensed, and rushed upon him with his excellent bow, his eyes red with anger. The intrepid Bhagava, consuming him with his glance, as it were, bounded quickly forward, reassuring the leaders who were tormenting the mighty Kumbhakarna, and in order to encourage the monkeys, taking hold of his great bow encrusted with gold, that with its sword resembled a serpent, Rama advanced his huge quiver full of arrows. Surrounded by the monkey host, that warrior went forward full of valor, followed by Lakshmana, and he beheld the illustrious and mighty Kumbhakarna, the vanquisher of his enemies, surrounded by titans, his eyes inflamed, adorned with golden bracelets, pursuing all those monkeys with fury like unto one of the elephants of four quarters, and he resembled the Vindhya or Mandara mountains, and was vomiting blood like a great cloud pouring down rain. With his tongue he licked the corners of his mouth that was wet with blood, while he continued to destroy the Simeon army like death at the end of the world. Beholding that prince of the Titans shining like a glowing brazier, the lion among men stretched his bow, and the sound of that weapon infuriated that foremost of the Titans, who, highly provoked, hurled himself on Raghava. Meanwhile, Rama, whose arms were like unto great coils of the king of serpents, said to Kumbhakarna, who, possessing the splendor of a mountain, was rushing to attack him like a cloud driven by the tempest. Come, O Prince of the Titans, tremble not. I await you with bow in hand, and in an instant will deprive you of life. It is Rama, reflected Kumbhakarna, and bursting forth into hideous laughter, rushed forward in fury, scattering the monkeys on the battlefield by his monstrous and terrible laughter, like unto the muttering of a thundercloud. He seemed to cleave the hearts of the inhabitants of the woods, and Kumbhakarna, in his great splendor, said to Raghava, take me not for Virada, Kavanda, or Kara, or Wali, or even Maricha. It is I, Kumbhakarna, who stand here. Behold my dreadful and mighty maze wrought of iron. With this Devas and Danavas were formerly struck down by me. Do not hold me in contempt, in that I possess neither nose nor ears. I do not feel the least discomfort or pain on account of their loss. Manifest the strength of your limbs, O tiger among the Ikshvakus. Having displayed your prowess and might, I shall devour you, O irreproachable prince. Hearing him speak thus, Rama loosed one of his plumed arrows at Kumbhakarna that struck him with the force of lightning, but that enemy of the gods was neither shaken nor moved, and his shafts, which had pierced seven sala trees and slain that bull among the monkeys, wholly cut into the body of the Titan, and that was as hard as a diamond. Then, as though they were drops of water, that enemy of the mighty Indra drank up those arrows through his body, thus quenching their fury. while he whirled his mace in a fine frenzy, and that weapon covered with blood, the terror of the celestial host brandished by the Titan with formidable energy, created panic in the Simian ranks. Then Rama, taking up another arrow named Vayavya, loosed it against that ranger of the night and cut off the arm with which he held the mace. With his arm severed, he let out a terrible cry, and his arm, cut off by Raghava's shaft, fell with its mace, taking unto the peak of a mountain on the army of the king of monkeys, crushing it. Thereafter, beside themselves, the monkeys who had escaped the massacre caused by that fall, their limbs lacerated, took refuge in the vicinity and became the witness of the terrific struggle between that Indra among men, that is Rama, and the prince of the Titans, Kumbhakarna. His arm severed by that blow, Kumbhakarna resembling the king of the mountain, its peak cloven by a great sword, struck down a tree with his remaining hand and rushed upon that lord of men. But Rama, with a shaft decorated with gold, joined to Indra's weapon, cut off his upraised arm like the coiled body of a snake, and the tala tree also. Beholding the Titan with two arms severed, who roared, was rushing upon him, Rama took out two whetted and crescent shaped arrows and severed his 2 feet. Thereupon the intermediary region Whereupon the intermediary region, the four quarters, the caves of the mountain, the vast ocean, the city of Lanka, and the ranks of the monkeys resounded with the thunder of his fall. That is the fall of Kumbhakarna. His arms and legs severed. That Titan opened his mouth like Vadavamuka and suddenly rushed howling on Rama like Rahu on the moon in the sky. Thereupon Rama filled his mouth with steel pointed and plumed shafts decorated with gold, and with his mouth thus filled, he was able to speak, and emitting inarticulated sounds with extreme difficulty, fell senseless. Thereupon Rama selected an arrow bright as the rays of the sun, which resembled the rod of Brahma at the time of the final dissolution and was fatal to his enemies. The weapon of Indra, well tuned and sharpened, the rival of Marutha in speed, and Rama discharged that arrow, the shaft of which was admirably inlaid with diamond and gold, brilliant as the flames of a blazing sun, swift as Mahendra's thunderbolt against that ranger of the night. Loosed with Raghava's arm, that missile which lit up the 10 regions with its brilliance, and which in its formidable aspect resembled a smokeless flame, struck that prince of the Titans, equal of the Shakra, and severed his head with its prominent teeth and swinging earrings like unto the peak of a high mountain, as formerly Purandara severed the head of Vritra. The enormous head of Kumbhakarna with the curls that adorned it looked like the moon floating in the sky at the time of sun's rising. When the night was past, severed by the Rama's shafts, the head of the Titan, resembling a mountain, fell on the earth, crushing the highways, residences, gates, and edifices of the city, bearing down the high walls also, and that gigantic body of the great resplendence belonging to the Titan fell into the sea, where it crushed the great sharks, huge fishes, and serpents, and plunged into the depths below. When Kumbhakarna, the great enemy of the Brahmins and the gods, was slain in combat, earth shook as all the mountains also, and the celestials shouted for joy. Thereafter, gods, rishis, maharishis, pannagas, suras, bhutas, suparnas, Ukshakas, and the hosts of Yakshas and Gandharvas who ranged the skies, loudly extolled Rama's exploit. But on beholding that valiant prince of the house of Raghu, adherents and kinsfolk of the Lord of the Nairarathas emitted loud cries at Kumbhakarna's fall, as do elephants in the presence of a lion. Having overcome Kumbhakarna in the field, Rama, amid the Simian host, resembled the sun emerging from the jaws of Rahu when it drives away the darkness from the celestial region. In their delight, the countless monkeys whose faces resembled opening lotuses lauded Prince Raghava, who saw the fulfillment of his desires in the death of his formidable adversary and the elder brother of Bharata, rejoicing that he had slain Kumbhakarna, the scourge of the gods, who had never been overcome in any great encounter as the king of the celestials rejoiced at the death of the great Asura Vritra. Thus come to the end, chapter 67 of Yuddha Kanda in Ramayana. Namaste Sharada Devi, Kashmira Puravasini, Twamaham Prarthaye Nityam, Vidya Danancha Dehime. Goodbye.